The door creaked open, and Adanna stepped inside, her heart beat racing as she felt something was off. The room smelled of sweat and something else, something intimate. Her stomach clenched. Slowly, she reached for the switch and turned on the light. The sight before her shattered her soul. Her husband, Kelechi, was lying in bed, naked. But what destroyed her completely was the woman beside her. Her own mother. Her knees buckled, the world spun. The betrayal was too much to process. "Mama," she whispered, her voice barely there. Her mother, Ijoma, gasped, pulling the sheets over herself. Kelechi jumped up, scrambling for his boxers, his face frozen in panic. "Adanna, it's not what you think," Kelechi stammered. Adanna let out a bitter laugh, her tears falling freely. "Not what I think. So I didn't just see my own mother in bed with my husband." Her voice tried to speak, but Adanna's ears were ringing. The woman who had carried her in her womb, the one who had raised her, had now stolen the one person she had trusted the most. Something inside her snapped. She turned around and ran away, ignoring their voices calling after her. She needed to get away from the filth and away from the light. But where does a woman go when the two people she loves the most betray her in the worst possible way? 2 years ago, Adanna had the perfect life, or so she believed. She married Kelechi after 3 years of dating, and their wedding was the talk of the town. Kelechi was handsome, hardworking, and charming. He was the kind of man every woman dreamed of. Her mother, Ijoma, was her rock. After her father died, Ijoma had done everything to ensure Adanna had a good life. She was beautiful, sophisticated, and always knew what to say. She loved Adanna, or at least that was what Adanna thought. But behind the picture-perfect family was something Adanna didn't see, something she never imagined. Her mother had always been overly involved in her life, always giving unsolicited advice about her marriage, always calling Kelechi at odd hours. But Adanna thought it was just her mother being a mother. She never suspected anything, not until the night she walked in on them. It started subtly. Kelechi had been going through a rough time in his business, and Adanna, busy with her own job, wasn't always around. Ijoma had stepped in, offering advice, comfort, and eventually something more. At first, Kelechi resisted, but Ijoma was persistent. She reminded him of what Adanna had not been doing, how she was always busy, how she had barely enough time for him. She made herself available in ways Adanna wasn't. One night, after a few drinks, the line between mother-in-law and son-in-law blurred. One mistake became two became a habit, and before Kelechi realized it, he was trapped in an affair with his wife's mother. They had been careful, they had planned everything so well, but all it took was just one mistake, forgetting to lock the door for their secret to be exposed. Adanna sat in her friend's house, staring at the wall. Her friend Amaka paced angrily. "That man is the devil," Amaka fumed. "And your mother, what kind of a woman does that to her own daughter?" Adanna had no words. She had cried until her eyes were swollen. "I just want to disappear," she whispered. Amaka sighed, sitting beside her. "No, Adanna, you need to fight. You can't let them get away with this." But Adanna wasn't sure she had the strength. How does a woman recover from this kind of betrayal? Adanna did not go home that night. She couldn't. The thought of breathing the same air as Kelechi and her mother made her sick. Instead, she stayed at Amaka's place, drowning in confusion, anger, and heartache. Her phone rang endlessly. Kelechi, her mother, even her younger brother Ebuka, she ignored them all. The next morning, Amaka placed a hot cup of tea in front of Adanna. You have to decide what you want to do. You can't hide forever. Adanna blinked at the cup. What did she want to do? Walk away, fight, or expose them? I want a divorce, she said finally, her voice hoarse from all the crying. Amaka nodded. Good, but what about your mother? Adanna clenched her fist. She's dead to me. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Kelechi. Please, let me explain. I made a terrible mistake. I still love you. Don't throw everything away like this. Adanna scoffed. Love. Was this what love looked like? She put down the phone. She was done crying. Now she was going to make them regret ever betraying her. Adanna decided to go back to the house, not to forgive, but to confront. When she walked into the house, Kelechi was waiting, his face filled with regret. Adanna, please, She raised a hand. Save it. I just have one question for you, Kelechi. He swallowed hard. When did it all start? Her voice was cold. He hesitated, then sighed. 6 months ago. Her stomach twisted. 6 months. While she had been cooking for him, loving him, trusting him, he had been betraying her with the woman who had given birth to her. She shook her head. You disgust me. Then her mother walked in. Ijeoma looked different. For the first time, she seemed ashamed. Adanna, my daughter, you are not my mother. Adanna snapped. A mother doesn't do what you did. Tears welled in Ijeoma's eyes. I know I hurt you. I hate myself for it. Adanna laughed bitterly. No, woman, Mama, if I hadn't caught you, you would still be doing it. You're only sorry because you got caught. Adanna took off her wedding ring and dropped it on the table. I will never forgive either of you. And with that, she turned and walked away. In their small town, news spread fast. By the end of the week, the entire neighborhood knew about the affair. People whispered when they saw Kelechi and Ijeoma. At the market, women gossiped in hushed tones. Can you imagine sleeping with your daughter's husband? Tufiakwa. I heard Adanna left him. She should. How can you trust a man like that? Kelechi and Ijeoma became outcasts. The shame followed them everywhere. But the worst part, Adanna's family had the news, and they were not going to let it slide. Adanna's uncle, Chief Okafor, was furious. This is an abomination, he thundered. He visited Ijeoma's house. You have brought disgrace upon this family. Ijeoma fell to her knees, weeping. Brother, I am sorry. Sorry? He spat. Do you know what the ancestors do to women like you? Fear crept into Ijeoma's heart. In their village, such betrayals were considered a curse. The elders called for a cleansing ritual. If she refused, she would be banished. And so, in the dead of the night, Ijeoma was taken to the village for a ritual to cleanse the abomination. As for Kelechi, karma came swiftly. His business, which had been struggling, collapsed completely. Investors pulled out. His friends abandoned him. Even women who once threw themselves at him avoided him like a plague. One night, he sat alone in a cheap hotel room, drinking himself into oblivion. He had lost everything: his wife, his reputation, his future, and for what? A moment of weakness. Regret burned in his heart, but it was too late. Some mistakes could never be undone. Meanwhile, Adanna rebuilt her life. She left the town, moved to Lagos, and focused on her career. At first, the pain followed her everywhere, but with time, she healed. She met a man who showed her what love looked like: respect, loyalty, and honesty. One day, Kelechi sent her a message. "I'm sorry. I wish I could undo everything. Please, if you can find it in your heart to forgive me." Adanna stared at the message for a long time, and then she deleted it. Some wounds were not meant to be reopened. Remember, betrayal has consequences. When you break trust, you lose more than just love. You lose everything. Adanna learned to rise above her pain, while Kelechi and Ijoma paid the price for their action. In life, karma never forgets.